investigation. There's no legal difference between these terms, and I no longer care to argue about the nomenclature. But let me clear up any remaining doubt. The conduct under investigation poses a threat to our democracy. We have an obligation to respond to this threat, and we are doing so. Under the procedures outlined in this resolution, we will hold hearings that allow us to further consider the evidence against the president. At those hearings, in addition to member questioning, we will allow staff counsel to participate for 1 hour per witness, evenly divided between the majority and the minority. This will allow us to develop the record in ways that the 5-minute rule does not always permit. We will also allow the president to respond to the evidence in writing and on the record. No matter how we may disagree with him, President Trump is entitled to respond to the evidence in this way. And we will treat certain sensitive evidence, such as grand jury information, as being received in executive session. Under these procedures, when we have finished these hearings and considered as much evidence as we are able to gather, we will then decide whether to refer articles of impeachment to the House floor. We have a constitutional, historical, and moral obligation to fully investigate these matters and to make that decision. Let us take the next step in that work without delay. I urge my colleagues to adopt this resolution, and I yield back. I now recognize the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Collins, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this. Welcome to everybody here who was expecting one thing and getting another. Last week, I was driving to a great event. It is the opening of football season at the University of Georgia. We're going between the hedges. The day was starting as our first home game. My wife and I are driving down the road, and she's looking at her phone. She's bored. She's looking at it as it goes forward, and she's in her Instagram account. And she looks over at me, and she shows me this picture of a person as a family member, as a close family member. She looks over, and she says, and a friend who was staying with us, she said, Megan told me about filters that you can use to make your appearance look better. And I said, yeah. I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, look at this picture. This looks nothing like our family member. What did she do? And I said, well, Lisa, I don't know. I said, undoubtedly she used one of the filters. What's happened today is great. The Judiciary Committee has become a giant Instagram filter to make you appear that something's happening that's not. It's a really interesting, and I hope he'll come back at this. The difference between formal impeachment proceedings and what we're doing today is a world apart, no matter what the chairman just said. And what we're looking at here is a filter to make you believe something. It's great, though, because I love this. I've not seen this much press up at 8 o'clock in the morning in a long time. When we look at this, though, let's look at the facts. Nothing we have here is anything that could not have been handled 5 minutes before a hearing of any time that we have. The filter may make you think something's happening, but really what we have is a walk down the yellow brick road. In fact, you want to see the yellow brick road? Let's go to the whereas clauses. The Emerald City is impeachment, and my colleagues are desperate to get there. They have been desperate since last November when they won the majority, and they started this path. They walked. Look at the whereas clauses on what they're doing and how they're doing it. In fact, what's really interesting, though, is very disturbing to me is the whereas clause in the second paragraph when it admits that the Russian government interfered in the 2016 election, yet we've had no hearings and no bills brought forward in this committee that deals with that issue. Undoubtedly, we acknowledge it like we've done a lot of things in this committee, but we don't want to solve it because we'd rather talk about it. So we continue the whereas clauses. We continue the whereas this, the yellow brick road. What's interesting is all along they thought people were coming along with them and that the public was happy with this and that other members in their own party were happy with this. But somewhere down the yellow brick road, they looked around and said, there's not all of us here. People aren't following anymore. And then we come to today, the resolve part, which is actually the real part of this resolution, which again, for all of the folks covering this is not anything special. In fact, let's talk about it. Number one, the chairman may designate a full committee or subcommittee hearing for the purpose of presentation of information to this committee. Oh my goodness, you can do that anytime you wake up. The chairman could wake up this morning and say, this is what we're doing today. Why do we need a resolve clause for that? I didn't know we needed to define the chairman's authority into saying what we're going to do today. He's made it very clear for all year this is what he wants to do. The second one, if a witness is called to testify, the committee staff, here we are again, because we know it looks more impeachment-like if we have staff answering questions. I don't know what it's like on the other side of the aisle here, but staff meetings must be heck around here, because I've never seen a majority bunch of members who desperately want to give away their authority to staff to do something. I've never seen this with the brand of lawyers that you have on your side of the aisle. I am amazed that you just don't ask for more member questioning and let some of these brilliant lawyers go at it, because they're good. But yet, undoubtedly, like I said, I'm not sure what's happening on that side, but this desperation to get staff to be in the spotlight to ask questions is just something that is, again, Instagram filter. Let's put it in there to look like something that it's really not. And for some lawyers, and I'm looking at one right here, Mr. Raskin, is amazing. I don't understand this one, but hey, again though, let me think. This could have been done at any hearing. At any hearing we do, the chairman just has to bring it up as a motion. It's in the rules. We don't have to be doing this as a resolution, but it looked really good over the weekend when we said we're going to start inquiries into impeachment, and we're going to put regulations in place to do that. And then it went off the track completely through the week because even their own leadership didn't know what they were doing. Then number 3, now this one's a problem. It talks about executive session and how they're going to handle information, because here's a problem. They already promised in court filings that they had these procedures in place. In fact, I wrote a letter to the chairman saying, no, you really don't here, and the copy of the letter I have here, you don't have these in place. And so it's really interesting. Maybe this is a time, maybe they thought the judges would miss it. Well, right now the TV camera's on. Judges, you might want to look at this. They didn't have the procedures in place. You may have a filing saying you did, but you don't. And also, let me also say for anybody listening here, this can't be kept strictly in. This rules cannot contradict House rules. Any member of the House can see this material. Any member of the House can. The last one, this one is the most amazing. I mean, we've been building up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I am so happy that this resolution says that the President Council may respond in writing to information and testimony presented in the committee in open session after the fact. Everybody in this room, everybody in this country, everybody outside this country can do this. Anybody who has an email address, anybody who has a pen and paper can write a letter to this committee. We're now letting the president, we're telling him that he can do this? As if this president has a hard time expressing himself? I think he understands this in his council. And then the chairman, after consultation with me, can invite the president to review. This is, again, this shows you how, frankly, unfortunately silly we've gotten today. To actually put in number 4 resolution to say that the president and his council can write a letter to this committee. Have we gotten to that point yet? Really? So, look. The Instagram filter is applied. Make sure it looks good. Spruce up the parts. Make your story look good. The press is here. We've been, I've wanted a long time to be able to say this. Welcome to Fantasy Island. Because we're here. It may all look good. The unfortunate part is when the screen goes down, you just see a simple procedure issue. A simple procedure issue that doesn't do with impeachment. That doesn't do with anything else. It just simply gives another press release for whatever we're doing now. So it's early, it's 8 o'clock, the popcorn's on, and as I've said, let the show begin. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. Are there any amendments to the resolution? For what purpose does the gentleman seek recognition?
I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment. Gentlelady reserves a point of order.
Amendment offered by Mr. Buck of Colorado to a resolution for investigative procedures offered by Chairman Gerald Nadler. On page 4, beginning on line 97, strike the following, or committee.
The gentleman is recognized to explain his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my amendment
I withdraw my point of order.
Gentlelady withdraws her point of order. The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, my amendment is very simple. It strikes the word subcommittee from the first procedure of this investigation. Impeachment is a serious matter, Mr. Chairman. The American people deserve to have these proceedings play out in the full committee where we can more fully examine the evidence and charges brought against the president, not shoved away in some special subcommittee where only a hand-selected a few members can gather evidence and question witnesses. This matter is so serious, in fact, that the full House has historically authorized the Judiciary Committee to open an impeachment inquiry, provided this committee with the specific instructions for opening the inquiry. In fact, As Lawfare notes in an article from earlier this week, quote, "The major difference between this resolution and prior procedural documents in connection with the last two impeachment proceedings is that this resolution is not connected to a vote by the full House directing the committee to begin a formal impeachment inquiry of the president," end quote. The historical precedent is clear. On February 6, 1974, the full House voted to approve House Resolution 803, which authorized the Judiciary Committee to investigate whether to impeach President Nixon. This resolution also detailed how the Judiciary Committee could accept information and granted specific funds for the investigation. Then, only after the full House had spoken, the Judiciary Committee unanimously adopted its procedures to handle material gathered during the inquiry on February 22, 1974. The committee then unanimously adopted procedures for presentation of evidence during the impeachment inquiry 3 months later, on May 2, 1974. This committee also received instructions from the full House before leaping into the Clinton impeachment inquiry. On October 5, 1998, the Judiciary Committee adopted impeachment inquiry procedures and reported a resolution authorizing the inquiry to the full House. The full House then affirmed the committee's decision to open an inquiry, approving House Resolution 581 on October 8, 1998. By jumping the gun and refusing to put this resolution before the full House, you are fundamentally denying both this Congress and the American people the ability to fully participate in this inquiry. You even stated in a court brief dated July 22, 2019, quote, Although the House has not considered a formal resolution structuring any particular proceedings by this committee, such a resolution is not a necessary predicate to consideration of articles of impeachment. This also contradicts statements by Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader Hoyer, who have said that the House isn't opening an impeachment inquiry. Mr. Chairman, having been here during the Clinton impeachment proceedings, I would have expected you would understand the gravity of this inquiry and would not cut this House's knees out from under it, or potentially keep members of this committee from being involved in the proceedings by sequestering business to the subcommittee level. You at least owe it to the American people to have this inquiry be on display in front of the full Judiciary Committee. For that reason, I urge adoption of this amendment, and I yield back.
Gentleman yield.
Oh, I'm sorry. I yield to the ranking member.
I appreciate it. You just brought out an interesting point, because I have right here, the chairman was here and was very vocal in the Clinton era impeachment issues on how this is supposed to go about and how you're actually supposed to do this. And it's really interesting to see that, you know, what was needed back then is not needed now, because frankly, there's a serious problem. They don't have the votes to go to the floor. And so now we're having to make it up as we go. But you brought out a very good point. But I mean, I got like 8, 9 pages here of the contradictions of where we're at today and where we would be at. You bring that up. I disagree with the very impromptu that this is anything with impeachment. But if they're going to imply it, we at least need to point out the inconsistencies here as we go forward. And I appreciate the gentleman's amendment. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. I will recognize myself.
And Mr. Chairman, I yield back also.
Thank you. I will recognize myself in opposition to the amendment. The amendment essentially says that the chairman can designate a full committee hearing as being for the purpose of presentation on an impeachment investigation, but a subcommittee hearing cannot. Whereas the resolution says committee or subcommittee hearing, the amendment would say only a full committee hearing. I would make 2 points. Number one, there are so many instances of misconduct and allegations of misconduct that we may very well, in order to do a complete and thorough job, have to use subcommittee as well as committee hearings, there not being enough days otherwise for the task. Number two, there is ample precedent for subcommittees being used in this fashion, and I was on the committee during the Clinton impeachment, as the gentleman states, and the committee, under then Republican leadership, under Chairman Hyde, used subcommittees to hold hearings on the subject. I remember in particular one subcommittee hearing in the Constitution Subcommittee on the question of what is an impeachable offense. But subcommittees were used for impeachment hearings as part of the impeachment investigation. The committee held hearings. At least the Constitution Subcommittee, maybe other subcommittees, I don't remember, also did. And there's no reason why we can't parcel out the work that is necessary to be done to subcommittees if necessary. So I oppose the amendment. Any other discussion on
Move to strike last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, you just made my point. I go back to my very first statement of my Snapchat filter. You're using your Snapchat filter here. You went basically to say that, what now?
Instagram, you said.
Instagram, Snapchat. Yeah, like I missed it, darn it. I mean, we're so in fantasy land here, nobody knows what's going on. I think this is the problem. You just went back to what we said. Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, it doesn't matter. We're not in an impeachment inquiry. It doesn't matter what we're doing here. This is what, I don't care if you, I mean, here's my problem. The chairman could do this at any time. The chairman could do this at any time. He just don't do it because he wants the appearance of something that it's not. And he just gave the answer to the gentleman from Colorado saying that we did this in an impeachment inquiry. You're not in an impeachment inquiry. And so you can continue to call it whatever you want. I think just be honest. And what we're looking at is saying, let's just talk about what is here and what is not here. With that, I yield back.
Yep. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? The gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do support the amendment of the gentleman from Colorado. It's sound. If we're going to do something, it ought to be in the full committee. But I want to direct you to the second paragraph of this resolution. It says, and I'm quoting from the resolution, the Mueller report, quote, found that the Russian government interfered in the 2016 election in sweeping and systemic fashion. And we're going, yeah, okay. And what's that got to do with President Trump or impeaching President Trump? And then we jump. I mean, I had thousands and thousands of felony indictments come through my court, come from my grand juries. This would be thrown out of court in any legitimate court because you jump clear from the Russian government interfered in the 2016 election and then says not that President Trump or the Trump campaign was involved. Oh, no. But that there were at least 10 episodes of President Trump using his official powers to thwart or attempt to thwart the special counsel's investigation, unquote. It's trying to make it appear, yeah, Russia tried to interfere with our election. They've been doing that for many decades. They want to create as much chaos in America as they can. But then to jump over and make it appear, oh, well, President Trump was involved. No, he was not involved. And it is a fraudulent, deceptive paragraph because this is supposed to be about the wrongdoing of President Trump. Yet the resolution makes a statement about Russia that Donald Trump conclusively had nothing to do with. We had people at CNN, MSNBC, all of the regular suspects fraudulently asserting that there was no question the Trump campaign colluded with Russia and that surely they just knew that President Trump was going to be indicted for it. While information was fraudulently withheld on these channels that the Clinton campaign had colluded, conspired with Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, and conspired with Russian agents to create a fraudulent dossier that they could use to attempt to affect the election to defeat candidate Donald Trump. Well, we still had people like Comey and Rosenstein committing fraud upon the FISA court, swearing to information they knew was fraudulently deceptive, and they knew it was not only not verified, but the information had no basis in fact, while their own information was that it was completely untrustworthy. Now comes this resolution that's supposed to be setting up a basis for impeachment, or as we'd say in Texas, this is fixing to be an impeachment. It isn't now, but maybe it's fixing to be. It starts out by stating a deceptive and fraudulent paragraph that Russia did a wrong, even though the report and the testimony made clear there was no evidence of the Trump campaign participating in that whatsoever. Further, we know that President Trump knew he had not colluded nor conspired with Russia. He knew the effort to say otherwise was the real fraud, so he kept trying to ensure that he was not framed by the conspiracy involving Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, and some other within the DOJ. In other words, he was not obstructing justice. He did everything he could to make sure that there was justice, not a frame-up, not injustice, and there was no fraud, except there was fraud, just not from his campaign. So how can someone be guilty of obstructing justice when the very goal they have is to do what they can to avoid a major fraudulent miscarriage of justice? It's time to put this aside, let the Democratic candidates for president run on their own, and let's get back to being judicious.
The gentleman yields back. Is there further discussion on the amendment? For what purpose does the gentleman from Wisconsin seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I think everybody assumes that this is the next step, relative to the potential of impeaching President Trump. And I'm going to address that issue now, even though the text of the resolution doesn't specifically apply to that. We've heard from the other side of the aisle that the president wants to be above the law. I would respond by saying this committee wants to be above the law too. And two wrongs don't make a right. Everybody should be equal in the eyes of the law. We should be fair. We should be giving due process to people, who are being investigated. And this resolution doesn't do that. And here's why. We will have all of these witnesses. We will get all of this stuff that might be given to us that has to be dealt with in executive session. And the committee has attempted to sue that. But it only allows the president to respond in writing, either in person or by counsel. And as the ranking member has said, anybody can write a letter to the committee. We get lots of letters on that. And the president, if he wants to respond to something, can write a letter, just as any other citizen of the United States can write a letter, because that's protected by the First Amendment. But the difference between what is being proposed here and what happened both in 1974 and 1998, I have a little bit of familiarity with that, is that both in 74, the Democratic majority allowed President Nixon's counsel to summon witnesses and to cross-examine other witnesses. And in 1998, the Republican majority allowed President Clinton's counsel to do the same thing. And not allowing the president's counsel the same kind of rights as was done in the two previous presidential impeachments that have been put before this committee is a gross denial of due process. And we're the committee that is supposed to stand up and protect the constitutional rights of everybody, and that includes whomever happens to be the president of the United States at the time. Now, let me say that, I was scrolling the internet news. I do a lot of that when I'm back home over the weekends. And there was one headline that said that this committee should either go bold or go home. This charade has been going on now since March 4th. You haven't gotten enough evidence to convince a majority of the House of Representatives to even authorize an impeachment inquiry. And that's probably why the committee hasn't gone to the floor to ask for one. The votes aren't there. Also, even if the votes are there to authorize an inquiry and to impeach President Trump, he will not be kicked out of office by the Senate. I think that that's been painfully evident ever since the beginning of what this exercise has been. We ought to be legislating, not continuing an investigation that hasn't come up with a smoking gun. The headline on the internet news said, "Go bold or go home." It's time to go home. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Does anyone else seek recognition? Gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is yet another resolution put forth by Democrats on this committee to keep this so-called impeachment chatter alive and well, to look for something that isn't there. They lack the facts, and they know it. Instead of focusing on the opioid crisis or keeping families safe at the borders or rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure or lowering prescription drug prices, they've been busy on this committee pursuing a faux impeachment, a fake impeachment. What I mean by a faux impeachment, it's absolutely not happening. It's a charade. Absolutely is. Well, it seems like every week the majority is issuing subpoena after subpoena, holding hearing after hearing, and passing resolution after resolution regarding an investigation that's already been completed by special counsel Robert Mueller at a cost of tens of millions of dollars. All so the Democrats on the committee can keep talking about the possibility of impeachment without actually authorizing a formal impeachment inquiry. Today, we have yet another resolution that wastes more of this distinguished committee's time to ostensibly give this committee the power to do something that's already in this committee's power to do. And still, committee Democrats haven't scheduled such a vote, nor has this committee marked up anything to authorize formal impeachment proceedings. Here are the facts. Special counsel Mueller, after a lengthy and thorough 22-month investigation, indicated in his report, then sat before this very committee and testified that the president did not collude with the Russians in their efforts to interfere in our 2016 elections. And the Attorney General determined that the president did not obstruct justice. Period. End of story. The Democrats on this committee know that, and they know that the American people know that. And that's why they won't pursue formal impeachment proceedings. But they also know that most Democrats hate this president. They've decided that he's guilty, regardless of what the facts say. And so instead, the committee Democrats feel no choice but to investigate and investigate and investigate until they find something that looks like a crime. Well, this resolution we are spending valuable committee time on today is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. And this is despite the fact that right before we returned from August recess, the DOJ Inspector General issued a scathing report detailing the many ways that then FBI Director Comey violated department rules in the way he handled sensitive information, potentially jeopardizing our national security, in what appears to be yet another effort by the left to undermine President Trump. But Democrats on this committee are much more interested in continuing to relitigate the Mueller investigation rather than considering issues long awaiting consideration before this committee. This morning, we could have used this committee's time to bring in and question Inspector General Horowitz about his recent report, but we aren't. And we likely never will, which is a shame, because Americans, our constituents, deserve to know exactly what happened and what can be done to prevent future leaks at the FBI. I hope that after today, Democrats can finally move past this fake impeachment strategy and on to more pressing matters pending consideration before this committee. But I suspect that next week, when we return from our respective districts, they will find yet another way to continue down this rabbit hole. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Is there further discussion on this amendment?
Thanks to all our great viewers worldwide here on News Now. We're getting ready, top of the hour. We're getting an update here. U.S. Marshals on the Arizona fugitives that were caught late last night in Arizona. Remember, Iron Mike is always for the fans. Thank you for being such worldwide great audiences. Thank you again. I am also Content Mike as well. You know that.